Every bump in the road transmits straight to performance and eventually to our profit and loss. And let's not think of emotional wellness as the absence of stress. In my almost 50 years of living, I've never once worked or even lived in a zero stress environment. No one does. So last episode, we audited the physical spoke: sleep, movement, and cellular fuel. Well, today we move to the spoke most executives underestimate and most benefits budgets underfund: emotional wellness. So if physical wellness is the engine, then emotional wellness is the suspension system. It's what absorbs the shock of a bad day, a bad week, or a bad quarter. And when that suspension wears down, every bump in the road transmits straight to performance and eventually to our profit and loss. And let's not think of emotional wellness as the absence of stress. In my almost 50 years of living, I've never once worked or even lived in a zero stress environment. No one does. Instead, emotional wellness is your capacity to process stress, regulate your response to it, and then maintain a level of equilibrium under sustained pressure. So let's think about that word, capacity. It's not a mood that you wait for. Your capacity muscle you have to build, train, and reinforce the same way you'd build any other operational skill set. And since this isn't a soft skills conversation, but a workforce risk conversation, I have some data that supports this. So Gallup's most recent global workforce study puts burnout symptoms at 67% of that employees experience at their current job. Now that's up 52% since 2021, the height of COVID. So that's telling. The American Institute of Stress estimates unmanaged workplace stress drains close to $300 billion with a B annually from the US economy in lost performance and turnover. And speaking of turnover, our managers account for roughly 70% of the variance in team engagement, again according to Gallup. Yet fewer than half of managers globally have received any level of formal management training. So let's think about that last data point again. The people closest to your workforce emotional state in most organizations are the least equipped to carry it. That's not a people problem, that's an operational gap. But we have some solutions for you. Some common issues you may see in your workforce are what's called employee hyperreactivity. And you see this when you have an individual that responds uncharacteristically to a seemingly small friction. This also shows up with emotional exhaustion, even at the beginning of the workday. And it's oftentimes mislabeled as laziness, lost motivation, or someone with an attitude problem. And then let's talk about compartmentalization of stress, masked as grinding, until it surfaces as physical illness, quiet quitting, or an increased workplace safety incident. Many times you see this at the management level, which in turn trains entire teams to hide strain instead of address it. So what are some solutions? Well, for the individual, I have found box breathing to be extremely helpful. This is a scientifically proven regulation technique to reset the nervous system in high stakes environments. It involves inhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, exhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, then repeating for 4 rounds. I personally have relied on it many times during my military service, prior to intelligence briefings, airborne jumps, and even before going home to my family after a long, stressful day. And I still use it today. Maybe not for critical operations, but before a presentation, or even while sitting in our ever-growing traffic. So use this tool during stressful transitions throughout your day, such as right before or after high-stakes calls or hard conversations, and especially at the end of the day. This is not a lifestyle overhaul. It is a 90-second practical reset. And for my organizations, it's important to build psychological safety within your operating system, where the emotional spoke stops being solely a personal responsibility, but becomes an organizational investment decision. And if you're questioning if the investment is really worth it, between 2012 and 2014, one of my clients, Google, ran a 2-year internal study called Project Aristotle, analyzing more than 180 teams. Researchers expected the top predictor of team performance to be talent density or tenure, but it wasn't. The single strongest predictor of high-performing teams was psychological safety, where people felt safe raising concern, admitting a mistake, or even challenging a decision without fear of embarrassment or retaliation. And that finding is telling, reinforcing the fact that psychological safety is emotional wellness, just scaled at an organizational level. And so understand, you can't coach your way around a culture that quietly punishes honesty. So what does organizational emotional wellness look like in practice? It looks like managers train specifically in emotional regulation and supportive conversations, not just performance management. It also can look like confidential EAP resources employees actually know how to access, and not just a line item buried in onboarding packets. It could also look like leadership, visibly normalizing mental health days as an operational standard, not an unspoken exception. And employee feedback loops where raising a concern is rewarded, not covertly penalized. So looking at the emotional wellness principles and practice chart, if you look at the left column, this is where most organizations sit today. The right column is where retention, capacity, and measurable outcomes actually live. And understand, emotional wellness rarely fails in isolation. A flat emotional spoke almost always drags down occupational wellness, because unmanaged stress and burnout are functionally the same event, just viewed from 2 different angles. It also erodes social wellness, because people under chronic stress tend to withdraw from the relationships that would otherwise support them. So you see, that's the whole person model at work. One spoke flat and the whole wheel wobbles everywhere, and most likely in the wrong direction. So I ask, what is your go-to strategy to decompress after a high-stakes day? Drop it in the comments below. Let's make emotional wellness a workplace standard, not an exception. Remember, emotional wellness is not a mood, it's a capacity, and one that you can build. You can either build or absorb the risk of leaving it unbuilt. In the next episode, we move to the spoke most people confuse with this one, occupational wellness, and why burnout is often a structural problem wearing a personal disguise. I'm Tiquita Stewart. Stay sharp, Stay focused, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next episode.